Hey, a couple of interesting themes have been intertwining for me today. First of all, this morning had a group coaching call with my clients. Every Monday, I share a mindset lesson with them because mindset is like taking your vitamins. If you don't take them, you're bound to get sick. You need a constant mindset reminder to train yourself how to think properly. And on today's mindset lesson, we were talking about how to go from circumstance to control. From circumstance to control. Most people go through life, and this applies just as well to their business as it does to the rest of their lives, on autopilot, where they are a product of circumstance, where their outcomes are a product of circumstance. Things just kind of happen to them, and they're simply observing and watching these things happen without exerting any kind of control over the things that happen. And where you want to be from a business perspective, but certainly this applies to anything in your personal life as well, is you want to be in a place of control, where you're not just letting things happen to you, but you are directing those things. You have control over what happens to you and how you respond to those events. And there's a framework to do that, which I taught on this morning's mindset lesson. And then I was having a conversation with somebody on my team who used to work in a retail capacity. And she was telling me this story about somebody who came to her when she worked in a retail store, a clothing store, who, came in the store a couple of times and looked at this item that was on sale. And they kept telling her, well, look, the sale's ending, the sale's ending, the sale's ending. And like a good salesperson, that wasn't a tactic. It was true. There was a deadline on the sale. And then she came back one day, I think it was the last day of the sale, and the item was gone, or the items were out of stock. And then she came to Bronwyn, is the person's name on my team. She came to Bronwyn and said, well, look, where's the thing? I came on the last day to buy it because you said the sale's ending. And Bronwyn said, well, look, we sold out. I mean, they're all gone, right? That's all that we have. And she was about to say, but I can check to see if any other stores have it. But before she could even say that, the woman said to her, well, what are you going to do about it? How are you going to fix this for me? Okay. And Bronwyn told me the story as an example of somebody who is not taking personal responsibility. Right? They're a product of circumstance. Things happen to them. They have no control over their outcomes and their results, or at least they don't see themselves as having control. She could have come in earlier. She could have bought one of the 3 or the 4 items that were on the rack when they were there and bought one at the sale price. She chose to wait until the very last second to pick up this item, and by then it was too late. And then she lashes out on the salesperson, in this case Bronwyn, and says, well, what are you going to do about it? How are you going to fix this for me? Okay. And then also on this morning's coaching call, had a question come in from a client about pricing. How do we validate our pricing in the market? How do we gain confidence in our price? And in answering that question, I talked about attracting the right kind of client. Because the truth is, no matter what you do, there's 2 types of clients. There's clients who will pay a premium for that, and there's clients who won't pay a premium for that. And all things considered, the clients who will pay a premium are the ones who are personally invested in the outcome that you deliver. It's really, really important for them to get that outcome, to get that result, or to achieve that goal, and therefore they're going to be willing to pay a premium. But guess what kind of person that is? That's the kind of person that takes personal responsibility for their outcomes, that takes personal responsibility for their results, that doesn't see themselves or their business or their role within a larger company as merely a circumstantial role. They don't see themselves as somebody, as an agent who just has things happen to them. They see themselves as an agent of change, somebody who gets things done, who makes things happen, who creates their own results and outcomes. That's the kind of client that you want, because that's the kind of client who's going to work with you in partnership to get results. You don't want the kind of client that walked into that store and said to Bronwyn, how are you going to fix this for me? And you probably work with that kind of client, right? You don't want that kind of client. That's the kind of person that sees themselves and their results and their outcomes and the things that happen to them as merely a product of circumstance. They have no control. They have no influence over what happens to them. It's all things that just happen to them, and they have nothing to do with it. So then when things go wrong, they lash out to the person at the store, the consultant, the coach, the service provider, the person on their team who was responsible for this thing, and they say, well, what are you going to do to fix it? How could you let this happen? They take no personal responsibility. versus the client, and I hope you've worked with clients like this who take personal responsibility so that when things go wrong or they hit a setback or they're facing an obstacle, they say, hey, well, what can we do to fix this together? How can I help? What do you need from me to solve this problem? That's the kind of client you want to work with. That's also the kind of client that will pay a premium to work with you because they're invested in the outcome. But to get that kind of client, guess what? You got to be that kind of person. You got to be the person who takes personal responsibility for your outcomes and your results and the things that happen to you. You got to see yourself as an agent of change, as somebody who can exert influence, who can do things to change the results and the outcomes that you experience in your life and in your business. Hope that all makes sense. That was a bit of a mouthful. If you have any questions about this, drop them in the comments below. Happy to help. Cheers.